What the rich do that you don't do, but don't do yet. Hello, my name is Maurice Wilson. This is the Wealth Equation Podcast. I'm an engineer turned financial advisor. You can find me professionally at wilsonwealth.com. You can also like and subscribe to this podcast for more information. Now, what are the rich doing that you aren't doing and probably not doing yet? And so here are things that I've just noticed with my clients and just in my walk and my career as a financial advisor. I've been in the business for 21 years this month. And so these are just things I picked up along the way. You can find these lists anywhere, but this is what I've personally seen as an advisor in the business with clients and just with people I've met. So the first thing I've seen, and this won't be a surprise to anybody, is that they own a business or property or a large investment portfolio. Okay. And sometimes these things are simply inherited. And that's typically what people assume. It makes them feel good. Someone's inherited money. That's why they're rich. But at the end of the day, whether they inherited it or not, it is a fact that business, that large portfolio, that large real estate portfolio is why they are rich today. So sometimes when we deal with rich people, we just say, oh, they're rich. It helps to find out, well, what is it? And typically it's going to be that they have a successful business. They do what I call owning a piece of the economic cycle. For a lot of people, we are trained to have one point of access into the American economy, and that's through the role as an employee. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being an employee. Absolutely nothing wrong. But you also have to realize that we are trained to be. That's not a coincidence. We K through 12 is to get into a great college. Why get into a great college? So I can have a great job. Nobody ever says, hey, here's how to do a P&L. Nobody says, here are the different business formation structures. Why would I need to know that? I'm not going to start a business. I'm going to work for a business. And again, nothing wrong with that. Everybody can't be a business owner. But if you do go down that path, if you do own a business, what makes businesses work, and you'll find just these mom and pop businesses, these sexy, really glamorous businesses, and up and down and everything in between, what makes them so lucrative for the people that own them is simply when you have a business, at some point, you own a piece of the economic cycle. What do just to get boxes, to get the Amazon stuff dropped off, somebody's got to sell cardboard. Somebody's got to put cardboard together. Somebody's got to do that boring kind of product. Somebody's got to create the fasteners, the straps, the tape, the things that go into the box. So for Amazon to get Amazon Prime to your house, for them to get this thing that you're waiting on, typically in 24 hours or less, somebody owns a piece of the process and they get paid to make that happen. So if you own that particular business, then hey, you're doing well. It's not going to make the headlines, but somebody who owns it is getting paid every time you click buy on Amazon. And that's how it is with owning a business, whether it's dry cleaning, whether it's trash pickup, whether it's yard or landscaping, home services, road services, just everything in between. If you own that business, if you provide that service or product, then you're getting paid as a part of the economic cycle that has to pass through you versus working for a company. A lot of times when you work for a company, you are separated from the actual sales process. You're more supporting things in the company that have nothing to do with actually delivering that product or service to the end consumer. And so sometimes your livelihood is very precarious. And so when that company goes in a different direction, you're impacted. Conversely, even if you just have a great career, your potential income is limited by how much that company needs you. Versus if you own a business, you can continue to expand in your particular niche. So if you provide a unique service or product to the business cycle, and they continue to need it, they continue to pass through you, where you're just going to expand. Case in point, McDonald's. When McDonald's hits the market, people are still cooking at home, but they discover, hey, we like these burgers, this assembly line process for making burgers, fries, and milkshakes. More and more people liked it. McDonald's kept expanding their footprint, and they went from 80 billion served to just McDonald's is everywhere. They're in China, they're in all these different countries. That's how it works with business. And everybody won't have a McDonald's, but there's nothing to stop you from having a business that serves one part of town that grows to serve every part of town or every state in a particular region. That's the benefit of owning a business. So, owning a business is definitely something that people who are rich do that a lot of people do not, because most people are trained to go to school and get a job. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. Another thing that business owners do, or that we find, is that they own a lot of real estate. And this is something that is seen as highly accessible and desirable by the masses. And the reason being is that we are trained to buy at least one home. If you don't own at least one home in the American society, you're considered a renter, and renter has been seen as being bad. And so we've been conditioned to go out and buy property. And what most homeowners find is, oh, I can hold on to my first property and get another property. And that's how most people get involved in real estate investment. What rich people do is they speed up the process. They don't wait and buy one property at a time. They start acquiring more and more properties. So I always tell people, if you really want to get started in real estate investing, you need 10 units, 10 income producing units to really get a foothold in real estate investing. You need enough units to overcome the headaches and enough units to see profitability to make this thing worthwhile. Where most people get stuck is they own 1 to 3 properties, they're all headaches, and they just don't want to go any further. And so they get shortcut. They get shorted out, I should say. And see, rich people, they see past that. They see bigger. They scale out, and they overcome those headaches by just having more and more income producing assets. And conversely, these assets are also appreciating in value as well. So a large real estate portfolio is also what rich people do. And then finally, of course, a large investment portfolio. 1 million is typically where everybody is shooting for, but 3 to 5 million really puts you in a good self-sufficient class. And of course, the holy grail is 10 million. If you have 10 million, a $10 million investment portfolio, every 1% is 100,000, 3% return on a $10 million portfolio, and you're in the top 1%, or at least the top 5% of earners in America. And America is considered a very expensive country to live in. So if you're in the top 5% earning wise, then most likely you are what we would call rich. So a $10 million portfolio or a large investment portfolio is one of the things that rich people have. So what's one of the 3 things that rich people do that we don't? They own a business, or they own a real estate portfolio, or a large investment portfolio. Okay. Now, if you don't have any of those, one thing that they do, we find a lot, is the highly compensated career, job, or skill. So this is where we get into your CEOs. CEO packages are typically enumerated in millions, not thousands. So typically a CEO is making $1 million at least in compensation, plus all the little perks that we don't know about: free car, housing, travel, things of that nature. So there are CEOs in that group. And then we get into our athletes and entertainers. They are easily making, I think minimum in the NFL is like 500,000, something like that. NBA contracts are guaranteed. We're talking millions of dollars. Baseball, same situation, but also golf, tennis, and those are just the sports. And then we jump into your entertainers. Top flight actors are making 20 million a picture. So these are highly compensated jobs and skills. Of course, your doctors, your lawyers, executives in that group, highly compensated jobs, which in turn they use to build real estate portfolios, investment portfolios, and some of them do start businesses as well. So these are ways that they, or things that they do that make them rich. So it's more than just having a good job or a good career. It's being at the upper echelon in those particular industries, which will allow you to be rich. And then the last thing, and this is where I feel if you're trying to join the the rich group, you're trying to have that security, those options in life. You may not have been born with a large real estate portfolio or an investment portfolio or a business that your parents started or your grandparents started. You may not have been that fortunate. You may not have the skill set to be a CEO or entertainer or an athlete. But there is one thing that each of us can do. And I believe we make a choice daily to do or not do this. And I call it just doing something crazy. There is something that we know somebody successful has done that we consider crazy, but they did it and it paid off. And so I talked about some of the things we do as being trained to do it. We are trained in America to go to school, get a great job, or get a great education, a great college, great job. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. But none of that is considered crazy. And when you start studying people who have achieved material wealth, and it doesn't have to be people on the Forbes, it doesn't have to be people that you see on TV. You can just, I used to talk to any business owner when I was getting started. Their stories always start with a decision that goes against the grain. They make a phone call to somebody that they have no business calling. They knock on a door of a business that they have no business doing. They stop a stranger. When I was a broke financial advisor, if I saw a guy, in fact, I saw a guy pull up in a BMW 740 something. I was in the Beamers. I still am in the BMWs. I was at a pizza. I was at a Papa John's, actually, Papa John's. I asked the gentleman what he did for a living. He gave me his business card. I followed up with him. When I used to work for Chrysler in Detroit, if I was at a club and the owner of the club was there, I would pull him or her to the side, talk to them. When I was at the car wash, the owner of the car wash, I would talk to them. I would talk to anybody to just try to find out what they did. And that's crazy. Most people keep to themselves, or they think people don't want to talk to them. What you'll find is typically successful people, they are willing to share how they got there. I won't I don't want to make successful people out to be saints because we know there are definitely some super wealthy people that are doing some pretty shisty stuff. But your mom and pop millionaire next door type typically is very forthcoming with their time and their wisdom. They're very appreciative of how they got there. So you'd be surprised if you try to talk to them. But in this day and age, you don't even need to talk to them. Everything's a click away. Just doing something different, something crazy can usually open the door to what you're trying to perceive or trying to accomplish, which we're all, for the most part, trying to have enough money to have enough options and not do things that we don't want to do. And so doing that crazy thing, you know, that thing that's against the grain can open the door to wealth. And I don't have an exact thing that it would be, but actually, I do. As much as I want you to listen to me all day, I actively do not do Instagram. I'm not knocking Instagram. I just don't do Instagram. I don't do a lot of the social media channels because I spend my time doing things that help advance my goals. I'm not saying I don't peek in every now and then. When you're doom scrolling, just think how much your life has improved when it's over. And usually it hasn't. And so what are you doing to improve or get you closer to what you're doing? How you're spending your time? Going off the beaten path. Spend some time in the library, spend some time with mentors, spend some time with people who are where you want to be to get to where you're trying to go. And so that's where we say that's one thing rich people have done or are doing that you could do. Doesn't cost you anything other than making a decision to go against the grain. If you like content like this, please join the Wealth Equation podcast. My name is Maurice L. Wilson, engineer turned financial advisor. You can find me at this channel. You can also find me at wilsonwealth.com, where we serve business owners, engineers, and highly compensated high net worth professionals. Thank you for listening again. This has been the Wealth Equation Podcast. Have a great day.